What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural 6 Pigeons live beat making stream. This is our live beat making series where we build tracks from scratch, real time, simple sample digging, vocals, production, the whole nine. The goal is to create something original, experimental, show you the full process, maybe have a little bit of fun along the way. If you're new here, of course, hit like, hit subscribe, drop a comment in the chat. I'll be keeping up on that in real time. And so here's the plan for the day. We'll start out building a sample using Splice, riff on it vocally a little bit, get some ideas, import those stems into Logic Pro once we feel good about it, and just fully build out the beginnings of that beat, production, mix, a little bit of master, bounce, see what we can come up with in the short period that we have together today. So you can find any of the music that we've already released on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. Just look up 6 Pigeons. We got more coming soon. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So I got here on the screen, Splice on the left side. I got Logic on the right side. So the idea here, if none of you guys have used Splice's stack technology, it used to be called COSO. Now it's inside of Splice. Taking a step back, Splice is a sample platform where they crowdsource a bunch of musicians, artists, and they create the samples that we're going to be working on today. So their stack tool here essentially uses some AI to aggregate these samples in a way that makes it very seamless for us to riff on them. They harmonize them, time them up tempo wise, so we can come up with a rough concept for a beat very early on. And then from there, we could take it into Logic and build it out more thoroughly. So I'll do my best to explain step by step along the way. And of course, being the inaugural stream here, bear with me if there's any audio issues, any hiccups. And if you're here live, feel free to tune in, send a chat, let me know how we're doing. So let's go ahead and get going. I'm going to start. You could see here on the screen for Splice, they got all these different options for vibes that you can, or genres that you could start with. So I'll start with trap, just a little bit of 808 trap. Never heard anybody. So let's pop in there, see what it starts us out with. Okay. Okay. Turn it down a little bit. Okay. Okay. So we got bass, we got a sample, and then we got some drums. You can solo any individual element here, so you see that the kick and the hi-hats and the snares kind of all together here. I think that's okay for now. Pretty cool sample. Pretty cool sample. Kind of keys. I'm not sure if I would call that bass, but hey, pretty spooky, pretty menacing. Maybe get a little bit of brass and winds. Okay. And so when I'm entering these things in, I'm always thinking with the concept of how can I manipulate this once I bring it into Logic. So just because I take something and I'm happy with it and I keep it in doesn't mean that that's the sound that I'm moving with when we bring it in. So just keep that in mind as we get going. You have a fader here for each instrument, so you could turn it down a little bit. You can mute. Ooh, that's pretty mean. Can we do anything to the percussion? Okay, a little subtle. Very subtle, but I like it. Whew. Okay. Okay. So another cool element is this little cycle through button here. It keeps you in the type, but switches it out. So I'm on percussion right here. I swap this, it's going to give me a new percussion sound. All right, let's dump that. Let's go. I want some more drums. I want like hi-hats. I can put some hi-hats in, but if they can send us there all the way. It's okay, but too much. Nope. Too busy. Too busy. Okay, maybe we'll be okay with this for now. No, not satisfied. I want more. Alright, back to perk. Okay, that'll do for now. Maybe we see if we get little vocals we could chop up. All right, that's dark. Okay. What are we gonna name this one? Let's see. What do we name it? Going inaugural. Okay, so now what I like to do, guys, you see at the top here, by the way, it shows you the key and the tempo that you're in. We can mess around with this if we wanted to, but I think I'm comfortable with keeping it E minor 133. So what I'm gonna do over here in this Logic project, using this beat making template that I made. You guys can make your own templates. I recommend it. Makes it a lot quicker once you get in, so want to get ideas going. So I'm gonna go here to the audio or the mic here. Let's go ahead and put some E minor on the Auto-Tune, Antares Auto-Tune. Okay. A little bit of shimmer. Valhalla Shimmer. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Valhalla Shimmer, guys. I've only recently started mixing it into my vocal editing and effects, but this thing here is nasty. So now let's see if I can get us going here. Yo, okay. Let's get low latency. Okay. Damn. How many times that I've been here? How many times that I told you that I'm coming back? How many times that I told you? If you run away from me, I'm gonna run back. I'm gonna running back. No one never hesitate. Yeah, I had to keep it in sight, never out of sight. If you gonna be on my side, keep your pockets right. Then you know I got my blicky with me and I cock it right. That's metaphorical. Jumping right through the portal though. Tell me no, I got another more. Then I got some problems, you're not more. Yeah, I'm falling up. Smoking up, gonna stay high. Let me know how to keep it right. You're a groupie and a matter side. Ooh, Mr. Rider, yeah, you can never stop me. Mr. Rider, man, you can never stop me. Mr. Rider, man, you can never stop me. Me, my rider, man, when I jump on 18. I'm on 18, you can never play with me. I'm on 18, you can never play with me. I'm on 18, you can never play with me. I'm on 18, you can never play with me. Yeah, I told you one time how I used to be. Now I keep it really fresh like a eulogy. Had to kill them all with that thing up on my wrist. Damn, I had to burn it right on CD, right on disc. I don't catch a disc, you can't even frisk. I'm over here disappointed at you, tisk. Oh, feel like a monster. I got my own money, little bitch boy. I don't need a sponsor. Oof. Hey, smoking so much that I hurt all my tonsils. Hey, I got a long hair, girl, Rapunzel. Hey, and you know she coming over here pronto. Gonzo. Hey, hey. Yeah, this shit is gonzo, like I'm gonna hey. Yeah, this shit is gonzo, and my name is Adrian. Hey, yeah, this shit is gonzo, I don't really play. Yeah, that shit is gonzo, like my name is Adrian. I don't play with him, say with him. Oh, you got a mess up kid on your time, hey with him. I don't mess with nobody else on my side. Better watch my 6 Foot Pigeons in. That new movement niche, I can keep it quick. Yeah, I do not ever talk. Yeah, I seal my lips. She. Okay, I would say it passes the vibe test. So let's go ahead and save this thing. Then we're gonna export that into our project. So let's see. Export. So you can choose to go original samples here, or in this case, some of these are change the key, some maybe the tempo, some the volume. So for me, I just want to put it in as I hear it in this session. So using 7 credits. So you have to have a Splice account, guys, if you want to download these credits. Highly recommended if you're a producer and you want to use some samples. I've always had samples as a part of my game. And the goal, guys, is we're going to bring this in and, I know that you can start a project organically. You can, I have a booth over here. I have percussion instruments. I could start all this completely in-house, but we live in a day and age where amazing music is at your disposal. And if you know how to sample it and manipulate it, it's just going to lead to a very quick and fun creative process. And that's the goal here. Get you guys some fun, cool music elements in your face, and just to show you how I do it along the way. So if you're here live with me, let me know in the chat how the audio is coming through. And without further ado here, now that it's inside the session, I'm going to reduce Splice, and we're going to bring Logic full screen here. And let's see, I'll be sure to turn these down. Usually they come in a little bit spicy. So bring these down a little bit. Okay. Just going to save it real quick, guys, so we can keep going. So 060925. Boom. Now we're active. What I like to do at this part, guys, is pretty much just clean up these samples. They're not always going to come in exactly how I envision them. Usually, I'm going to start with the percussion. So let's get all the percussion here. You'll see sometimes it's nice they come in with the icon, so you can already get a gauge of what is what. So in this one, you can see that it comes in with the kick, the hi-hat, some other elements. So let's go ahead and chop it a little bit so we have a little bit more flexibility in what we're editing. So very simple. And guys, I'm going to do this pretty crudely because you can always, the goal is not to have a perfect finished product right off the jump. The goal is to get something to build off of and to go into demo mode, demolition derby style. We want to create something that we can build off of and that we feel good about in terms of getting a general direction. So what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm moving the kick onto a different track here, and let me see, this one's better. And I'm just replacing the kick where it was on the original track with just a simple hi-hat. That way, if I mute the kick at any point, you don't hear a gap in this sample. Okay, so now if I were to mute it, now we just got the high end and some snare. I'll duck out some of this low end just in case any of that kick comes through. Doesn't sound like it does. Another thing for me is I almost always, when in doubt, I just put these percussion elements in mono. I find that having a mono and a very tight percussion stack just leads to me being able to put very full vocals and put a lot of the dynamic range into the vocals, so I can pan left and right the background vocals and don't have to worry about it conflicting with any of the percussion elements. So there we go. This is what we're hearing now. Something that I always use just to spruce things up is iZotope Trash 2. Highly recommend it. There's a million different options you can go with to give it different timbre, different qualities. For me, I have a couple go-tos here, right in the saturate option. Push-pull, tape saturation, gentle push, and delicate harmonics. I kind of sit with those. For percussion, push-pull is really good to almost give it a little bit more of a kind of like a punch on the big transients. So that's what we're working with here. Okay, and now we're gonna take a look at the kick. And with the kicks, I usually rinse, cycle, repeat. What I recommend is find a process that works for you, and then rep it out. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel every single time you produce. So for me, I'm going to take this kick. I'm fine with how it's sounding right now, and I'm going to add a few elements. So another go-to at all times for me, waves. Waves, max bass. So I have the whole Waves Gold bundle. Highly recommend it for mixing and producing. But this specific one, max bass, I use in a number of different ways. Again, I have a go-to here, multimedia. It kind of gives the kick a range that it punches through, and I bring it down a little bit to like 50 frequency around there. Case by case, what sounds good. You can see that it's clipping a little bit, so brought it down so it's not gonna give me any sort of issues with clipping as I add other things to this. So then another thing, this is me, guys, not everyone likes to do this. I put a little bit of a low end cut on the kick because I'm making space for where the bass will sit in the mix. Now I don't really have a bass going yet, but I just know that I'm going to add one at some point, so might as well. So similar here, optional, but I like to do it usually, is trash, just to test out how these additional elements sound with push-pull, gentle push, delicate harmonics. I like delicate harmonics for more harmonic elements, not necessarily percussion. I like push-pull here. Don't gotta go crazy on this one. It's very simple. I kind of like a little bit of the panning nature that happens to this one, so I think I'm going to leave that here for now. There's a little bit of overkill with the hi-hats here with this other one. But that's okay. So let's go ahead, get gain popping. Okay. All right, so once I feel pretty good about the mix of all of the percussive elements. I'll go down to some of the more musical elements. I'm going to add some of my own perk to this. That's what you can see here: kick, hi-hat, percussion, percussion, percussion. I have some preset kits that I usually just add in to layer on top. But before we get there, let's go down the list and see if we can mess around with some of these musical elements, try to make them our own a little bit. Okay. So immediately what comes out to me is it's pretty high up there in the range. I'm going to use Waves Sound Shifter Pitch. It's a very clean pitch shifter. You can use whatever you have, but I just prefer this. I'm going to bring it down an octave, see how it sounds. I already like it more. I might even duck the mid-high range, leave space for some vocals. And another thing that I prefer to do, guys, is I don't like to just leave the sample as I found it. Oftentimes, even for just sampling's sake, I will make some edits to make it my own. So something else that kind of pops out to me right now is it's a consistent melody, and so I might just chop. I might chop a little bit and like not glitch it out, but you'll see what I mean. So let me see what it sounds like if I take this first section and double it. Very subtle, and some people might not even notice it. Okay, now that I got that, run it over. Okay, maybe filter it. So I really like Filter Freak. Sound Shift, Filter Freak. Cool, all right. Pretty simple right there. We could mutilate this thing. We could really add some additional effects to make it absolutely our own. It's just a question of if we want to do that or not. The world is our oyster, so I'll give it a shot. Waves Kaleidoscope, a very interesting texture modifier. So you'll see here, it's kind of a flanger. It's got a mixture of a phaser, a flanger, chorus, tremolo, depending on what preset you're using. You can hear some of that overdrive. Goofy. Okay. Trial and error a little bit. So another stock plugin that I like to use with Logic is SpectralGate. We'll see if this sounds good at all. So if you really wanted to like have a, sometimes they'll like to cut out the beat for a split second and they'll give you just a remnant of the beat like this. I like to use this sometimes for that. So to give maybe an example of even what I'm referring to there, I might bring this over here. I might extend this for a moment. Take this. Oops. Oh, I see. motion. Go over here, and let's just see how this sounds with the spectral gate on this element. Maybe we'll keep it, maybe we won't, but that's okay for now. Alright, once we feel alright with this, on to the next. Pretty grumpy. Okay, so this here is way too Lord Farquaad. We gotta Shrek this thing out. Not yet. Maybe we just use it for stabs. Extend them a little bit. Not that much. Split the difference. Filter free. Trash. iZotope trash. I'm not saying that sound is trash. See, this is where I would use delicate harmonics because it's a harmonic element. So now let's give it a little bit of control in the spacing. Let's make it a little bit narrower. It's already naturally panned a little to the left, so I'll leave it right here. For the last element here, and we may not use all of these elements, but since we're here, Okay. Again, we can always do so much more, and we will, before we call this beat our own to these samples, but what I like to do is get the bass line essence and then see if we can build on top of it. So now let's see if I can go to my percussion. So I'm using Stylus RMX here with some of these kits. I have a Stylus tutorial on our channel. If you just look up Stylus RMX, it's one of the top ones. So feel free, if you want to deep dive into Stylus, you can view that. But for the time being, I'll just use it. Okay. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. So I like the sound of it. I think it's a little high. So I'm going to again use sound shifter pitch. Bring it down, let's say 3. But I got to take record mode off. Let's go 5. That's fine. So now I'm going to bounce this. It's not an exact science when you pitch percussive elements, because there's not really a melody or much of a note to a hi-hat, so it's kind of just a feel thing. So I thought that it could go 5 pitches down and it sounds pretty good. Let's keep going. Don't overthink it. Okay. All right, we are missing some mean bass. So we already know from when we imported the stems, this is in E. We're in E major. So just for simplicity, I'm going to go in here to this transposer on the MIDI, turn it on, go to E, major is major. 808 Warfare is the plugin, Contact 5. with that. Let's bring the velocity up. Okay, just make sure they're all lined up. Okay, now what I'll do is I will force legato so that they all end where the next beat note starts. And now let's bring it down. I think we can end it a little better. That'll do for now. Again, we're trying to get a demo, so we're not gonna micromanage every element here. But we are gonna beef this thing up. Little radiator, Soundtoys, really good. Just add some thickness, usually to low-end elements. Okay, another one is, what's the name of this? Refuse, low-ender. It's a little bit of a cheat code. This just adds some thump and low end. So again, when you use these tools, you tend to find a go-to. This is my go-to. So you'll see. So this is without it. I'm not sure if this will come through on the stream or not, guys, but here you go. Now this is with it. And I only brought this over a couple. If you take it all the way, you'll hear what it does. Okay. Another thing I like to do with the bass, guys, is a log drum. If you ever have like a log drum sample, you could find one on Splice. Just look up a log drum stab. You'll come up with something similar to this. Right, so I'm gonna use this, bring over the transposer just in case, but what I'm gonna do is now duplicate the bass element, and I'm gonna bring it, and now what I have here is this. But I don't use it to double the low end. I actually use it to add some kind of mid-range thump. So when you add it to this, just a little bit more thickness. Now the next element that I like to do, I use this on just about every beat that I make. Exhale. So this plugin, I use Contact 5 Exhale. It's a vocal sampler. So it has a bunch of notes, loops, slices are the different options here, and they have a full library of sounds of kits based on which of those options you select. So again, we'll go up here to the top. We'll go E major. Maybe let's try slices. And let's see what we got. All right, let's just give it a shot. You could bring it down an octave up here. By the way, sorry guys if it kind of clips. Whenever you bring it down an octave here, it tends to like kind of sound a little clippy on the sample. So just bear with me. I may keep it on the high end for now, and then once I feel like I get a melody or an element that I like, I might then bring it down an octave. That'll work. Okay, so now let's see if we can bring this down an octave, how that sounds. So I bounced that in place again, guys, because of the clipping sound when you bring it down an octave. So I'm going to keep this in here in case I need to go back and change it. But for now, I'm just going to stick with it like this. And sometimes I just double right back. So if I get that element, and then I might just go right back to the well, see if there's something else for me. But first. Love it. Why not? Why not? Okay. Okay. All right, well, now I'm feeling like it's in a decent place. So what's left to do than to goof around, maybe get some vocal layers in there, see if we can come up with something on the spot. Yeah. Yeah. Hey. iZotope shimmer. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Alright, why not? Let's go. You see me? Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. You see me? Yeah. Okay. Familiar. We been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. Been here before. Familiar. I've been here like once or twice. Familiar. We been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. Been here once before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Yeah. Familiar. Been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. Been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. We've been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. I know everything to know in this situation. Sure. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, just what to do in this situation. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. I know everything to know in this situation. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, just what to do in this situation. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. I know everything to know in this situation. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar, we've been here before. Familiar, been here once or twice. Familiar, we've been here before. I know everything to know in this situation. Familiar. Okay, a little low end. Let's keep going. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. I know everything to know in this situation. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. I know everything to know Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. We've been here before. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. Everything we know in this situation. It ain't perfect, but it works. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. We've been here before. I know everything I know in this situation. Familiar. We've been here before. I know everything I know in this situation. We've been here. I know everything I know in this situation. Familiar. Everything I do, moving really slow. No, not you. Okay, now let's just mess around on the next section. We've been here before. I know everything I know in this situation. Here before, I can hear you now. I've been waiting on me. I'm just out of sight of sound. You ain't heard this once. You ain't heard this twice. I've been here many a times. I gotta lie to you, go to get life. I've been here many a times. I gotta do songs and stripes. I gotta take a step back. I gotta take a step back. I know everything I know in this situation. In this situation, there's a protocol. I've been here way once, you ain't been here before. No, I can do this anytime. I know standards, I know every etiquette. Let's pop this shit. If you want it, I can show you all the rubric. Then you know I'm over here with all that new shit. I don't mess with all that play stuff way back. We could keep it in the rack. I know everything I know in this situation. In this situation, there's a protocol. I won't tell you how to do it, you're too novice, bitch. In this situation, everybody knows there is a protocol. There's a protocol, got a ball, moving up to the top, never drop, always sharp. If the store getting locked, then I keep it under wraps, and I do not give a crap. If she is on my lap, I won't tell her any of it. I know everything I know in this situation. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. That's fun. I like that. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, we've been here before. I know everything I know in this situation. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. I know everything I know in this situation. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. Cool. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this we've been here before. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, okay. Not perfect, but we can work with it. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, familiar, familiar, familiar. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar, familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. Familiar, familiar. Protocol. Okay. And now let's just a little bit of arranging, put a nice little master on it, and we'll be on our way. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. Situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. There's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. There's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. Protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. So for mastering, I use Ozone 8. Let's just pull it up. They got some really nice presets. Sometimes I don't even mess with the presets because the independent elements are pretty simple. So I'm going to take you through just kind of step by step on some of the mastering tools that I add in using Ozone 8. Familiar. Familiar. This is the multi-band compressor. Familiar. I know just what to do in this situation. Familiar. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. This is the maximizer. Just really make sure you can get it as loud as possible without clipping. So I usually have this true peak option toggled, and then I just play around to see where the total wavelength is.
In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation.
That'll usually be the last element on the chain. Another thing that I like to do is add in imager. It allows me to adjust the imaging from a multi-band perspective. So I can, for example, make sure that the bass is tight and narrow, and then I can kind of widen it up as we get to the higher bands. I'll show you what I mean. So that shows the wavelength and the imaging of the element. So if I brought it up here, you'd see that the bass is getting wider. Still not wide, but you can start to see its movement. I don't really want that. I want the bass to be tight and just compact, and then move on to the low end.
In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation. There's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way.
Okay, guys, I think we're comfortable calling that for now. So what I'm going to do is just play it one time here, just to see where we came from, and I'll bounce it, and that'll be it. So let's give it a listen.
Familiar. Familiar. Situation familiar. Familiar. Been here once or twice. Familiar. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a one more. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a right way and a wrong way. In this situation, there's a protocol. In this situation, there's a shortcut and a long way.
Almost done, guys. What the? That's not right. There we go. Boom. All right. Well, I'm going to bounce that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this inaugural stream of the 6 Foot Pigeons process. Appreciate all of you guys for hopping on, hanging out. If you enjoyed, please go ahead and hit like, subscribe, drop a comment. We're going to be doing this more frequently, so we'd love to see some of you guys come back. Our music is out now. If you guys are curious, 6 Foot Pigeons on any streaming platform, or hit the link in the description. We'll be doing this weekly, so follow up, stay in the loop, and we'll be right here for you at least once a week. And if you've got loop suggestions, ideas, want to collab, or have any concepts or things you want to see in future videos, go ahead and drop them in the chat, in the comments. We'll be taking a look at every single one of those. So without further ado, appreciate you guys for hopping on. And Tommy from 6 Foot Pigeons signing off. Peace.